The film begins with a scene in which the main character, a pilot named Overgore, digs snow in the vastness of the Arctic. He tears the path to the ground, carefully picking up stones and removing even the thin layer of snow on the surface. At first, it is not clear why this is necessary, but when he finishes his work, the camera moves up, demonstrating a huge inscription, SOS, from a height. The hero sends a distress signal. The man returns to the shelter, the fuselage of the plane that made an emergency landing. Overgore checks the holes with homemade fishing equipment. On one fishing rod, the fish broke a wire that served as a fishing line, but on the other fishing rod, it successfully bites. The survivor takes out the fresh fish and drowns it, then puts it in a plastic box with the rest of the supplies. The next item in the daily schedule is lunch. The hero eats raw fish, cutting it into pieces. He has nothing with him that would allow him to cook food. Having recovered, he puts on clothes and goes to the top of the nearest hill. From here, he transmits distress signals through a radio beacon, powering the equipment with a manual dynamo. When the twilight thickens, he returns to the shelter and goes to bed. Tomorrow will be another such depressing, monotonous day of struggle for survival. In the morning, the first thing he does is go to the bottom, where he cleans a hill of stones from the snow. Based on the fact that he is saying goodbye to it, it is logical to assume that this is the grave of his comrade, who did not survive. Then Overgore again clears the inscription, SOS, and checks the fishing equipment. Everything is as usual. However, the variety in the established order brings the discovery of a broken plastic box in which the fish was stored. It was eaten by White Bear. Having reasonably figured out who is the king of nature and the top of the food chain in this situation, the man runs to the plane, where he locks up and waits. During one of the subsequent broadcasts of the signal from the radio beacon, Overgore notices a white bear far in the valley. The predator also sees him, but does not hurry to approach, as if he knows that he will not go anywhere. A dull and monotonous existence continues day after day. But one day, when a snowstorm came, the signal of the beacon was jammed by the rescuers flying nearby. Overgore gives them a signal with a smoke bomb, and they head for him. Due to the strong lateral wind, the helicopter fails to land, and later it is completely demolished to the side, where it suffers a crash, hitting the ground. For a few moments, the world around is completely devoid of sounds. The brain simply refuses to perceive other information. But Overgore quickly grabs hold of himself. He rushes to the crash site, as there was no explosion and the survivors could have survived. Of the two pilots, one died in the accident. Another pilot is a young woman. Although she lost consciousness, she got off relatively easily. The man gets into the overturned cabin to disconnect the belts and check the condition of the girl. In addition to a blow to the head, she received a stomach wound in the form of a cut. Overgore uses a helicopter first aid kit to treat the wound, fastening the edges with a medical stapler. Waiting for the storm in the helicopter cabin, Overgore checks the condition of the rescuer. After that, he scans the cabin for useful things, such as an ice axe and a map of the area. He also finds several packs of fast-cooking noodles. After a raw fish diet, even in dry form, it seems to be a delicacy. Then he disconnects the doors to make improvised sleds, leaving a message on the board of the helicopter about the survivors. Overgore drags the wounded into his camp. In the fuselage, he puts her on a bed, gives her a drink, and checks her well-being with a simple test. He asks her to shake his hand. When the woman loses consciousness, the hero leaves her a note, just in case, and returns to the helicopter. There could still be something useful there. He removes the jacket from the dead pilot, placing a tombstone instead. Also, among the useful things, he managed to find a gas burner and a working lighter. Such a find will greatly help to diversify the menu from raw fish to blue snow. Finally, he takes a photo of a wounded woman with her family, husband and child, from the cabin. Already going to leave, he checks the luggage compartment. There are sleds. After reloading the freshly collected baggage, Overgore returns to his base. Here, he attaches a photo of the wounded, so that when she wakes up, she remembers why she needs to fight and for what reason to live. After disinfecting the wound again, the man lights the burner. For the first time in an unknown time, he can enjoy the warmth.
Then he checks the homemade map that he has been leading since his own crash with a rescue map. A weather station is marked on it, which is several days on foot. In the illuminator, the hero notices that he spits in the fishing area. He was lucky. In the kitchen, he caught a large trout that he cooks on a burner with noodles, the first hot and boiled dinner in a long time. But first of all, the man feeds the wounded, although she is too weak to eat. The next few days, he takes care of the wounded, checking her condition by testing her hand. Also, Overgore continues to send signals from the beacon in the hope that other rescuers will come for the colleagues and save everyone in the end. But no one is in a hurry. He claims to the young woman that they will appear soon, but he himself does not believe it, and she is getting worse. Then the man decides to get to the station. He lays out the route on the map, collects supplies, and leaves a message both on the piece of paper and on the fuselage. 2 survivors went north to the weather station. Then he loads the motionless wounded woman in a sleigh with a treasure and goes on a journey through the endless snowy expanses. On the way, he updates the mark on the crashed helicopter so that the information is up to date, and if someone comes, they know where to look for them. In the evening, he digs a hole in the snow to wait out the night. The next day, Overgore reaches the flag, the place marked on his map. He tears off the box with his last message from under the snow. Once he had a crash here, having taken his pilot's ID from the box and removed the flag to avoid embarrassment. For those who will not be lucky to be here, the man resumes the journey. However, soon he comes across an obstacle, a steep pass, where it is not so easy to climb with a wounded woman. It will take 2.5 times more time, 5 days instead of 2 in a straight line. Overgore climbs the pass. Behind him is a straight and convenient gorge, but first you need to lift the sleighs. He fastens them on a rope and tries to drag them. If it was difficult to lift the sleigh with sleeping bags, then large sleighs with a person weigh twice as much. He tries to drag them several times, dropping them down every time, but to no avail. In a helpless anger, he has to make a difficult decision and go around. Closer to the evening, the traveler finds a cave that is used as a place to spend the night, having previously covered the entrance with snow. Overgore tries to feed the girl, but she sleeps all the time and does not even drink. Closer to the morning, an animal roar is heard nearby. The man tries not to make noise, takes an ice axe in his hand, although the benefit from it against a predatory animal is purely psychological. A white bear rushes into the cave, throwing a snow blanket. He only saves because the entrance is not too wide. The bear's head passes, but the body does not. But this is only a matter of time when the bear tears the passage with his paws. Overgore takes out one of the luminous bowls and scares the beast with screams and fire. Never having seen such insolent food, the bear runs away. Morning, the unsuccessful pilots continue their journey through the snowstorm. Difficulties are added to the bad weather in the form of a steep ascent. Overgore, exhausted, is no longer able to gallantly jump in a harness, so he breaks up the camp here, using the shelters placed on the box as a wall. After the storm, the sleeping bags are slightly covered with snow, but he manages to get out. The man continues to move as much as he can, but in a natural corner under the rock, he makes a halt. His wounded companion becomes more and more weak. She is no longer able to shake his hand during the usual check. In the morning, Overgore discovers that her eyes are inflamed, and blood has accumulated in the corner of her lips. He checks the wound, and the worst fears are confirmed. The inflammation has begun. Having put a photo of the family in his hands, the survivor begins to collect things for the continuation of the trip. At one point, his attention is attracted by flowers of snow growing on the stones, a clear example of the fact that life will pave its way everywhere. This reminds him that he cannot give up, but immediately, the universe sends another test. The hero falls under the snow into an underground cave. When he falls, he loses consciousness and does not immediately come to his senses. But even this is not the worst thing. His leg is clamped in a narrow gap. Several useless attempts to pull out one torn wound, and now the man is free again within one separate cave. However, finding a way out turned out to be not such a difficult task. Literally nearby, you can see a smooth ledge outside. The other thing is that with a damaged leg, you will not go far. The lame hero returns to the abandoned camp. Here, a wounded girl comes to his senses. She greets him before cutting herself off again. The incident reminds the man that he is responsible not only for his life. Therefore, despite the pain and tears, it is necessary to fight on. He ties his leg, having previously cooled the wound with snow, and resumes the journey. But there is no reason for optimism. They ran out of drinking water. He is wounded and cannot walk quickly. And during all this time, they did not make half the way around. Trying to drive away the unhappy thoughts about what it all means, Overgore decides to make the task a little easier. He dumps additional cargo from the sleigh, such as dishes, an empty canister for water, a radio beacon, an ice cube, and before he hides again with the tug horse in the sleigh, the man alone climbs to the top of the hill to look around. Here, incredible luck happens. He notices a helicopter sitting in the distance. For some reason, he is denied instead of running from all the lame legs to people directly, waving a red jacket. He returns to the slope of the hill for sleighs with a woman, after which he begins to push them to the top. Having spent a lot of time this way, Overgore lights up a lighting bowl, but in daylight, from such a distance, it does not attract too much attention. Then he goes to the bank, takes off his jacket, sets it on fire and waves it like a hellish flag. But people from the helicopter do not see them. They sit in the salon and fly in the opposite direction. Exhausted, Overgore climbs with an insensitive woman and hugging her. He understands that they are doomed, wounded, powerless, far from the nearest base. The man lowers the woman to the snow and lies down next to her, squeezing her hand. He says calmly, "Everything will be fine." But everything is quieter and quieter. His eyes close. The hero does not hear and does not see how a helicopter lands behind them.